The longer you're married, the more you need to praise them about the good things, because here's the thing, is the more you praise them about the good things, when those times come up that you actually do have a concern, their ears are going to be ready to listen because they know you've assumed the best about them.
And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding ours, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, welcome to our home. We're glad you're here.
We all know that when two people get married, they usually marry someone very different than they are, right? And quite often those differences extend to how you parent your children as well.
I know that was definitely the case with us. Well, coming up, our Loveology segment features Dr. Morgan Cutlip, and she'll help us navigate those different parenting styles and how they can actually be good for our kids.
And have you ever given much thought to your thoughts? Especially the way you think about your spouse.
Marriage experts Dave and Ashley Willis say it's worth thinking about because quite often those thoughts become words, and we know our words have the power to bring us closer or drive us apart.
Right. And our kitchen couples will have thoughts and words about all of this coming up.
How we talk to our spouse and how we talk about our spouse, whether they're with us or maybe they're not with us, has a lot to say about our marriage, because in marriage, we need to assume the best about each other. But what we've found in the work we do with couples is that so many times we nitpick, and we end up nitpicking in public around our spouse or at work or even on social media. And what it does is it really damages our relationship, and it really makes our spouse not trust us.
Yes, yeah, both the words to and about. And I think the about part is a place to camp out, because some folks have this mindset where it's like, well, as long as I'm talking with general respect to my spouse, I can vent about my spouse to my buddies at work or to the ladies around the office, water cooler or whatever it is.
Yes.
But what happens is the more that we vent and have those negative mindsets that come out in our words, it really shapes the way we think about our spouse and the assumptions we're making about our spouse. And really, a lot of this does come down to choosing to make the right assumptions. Instead of when your spouse does something you don't like, instantly assuming they always are just thinking of themselves, or they're always trying to do this, they're never thinking about me. Instead, say, you know what, I'm going to choose to believe that they love me, that they're for me, that they're just as committed to this marriage as I am, but they have a different perspective on this issue, and that different perspective and personality largely is just part of how God wired them to be. And this is an area, like all areas of marriage, that we just need to communicate about, and to communicate with a lot of openness and respect and understanding and a desire to learn from each other and to realize we're on the same team.
Yes.
And so if I've got an issue, I don't need to go tell somebody else about what's frustrating me about my spouse. I need to go in love to my spouse and say, listen, when you did this, you might not have meant anything by it, but it made me feel this certain way, and it made me feel disrespected, and maybe like I'm completely off base here, but I just want to share what I'm feeling so we can talk about this and continue to just assume the best in each other.
And the more we assume the best of our spouse and we praise our spouse for the good things they are doing, and yes, I said praise your spouse. Sometimes when we're talking to couples, they're like, but he's a grown man. I shouldn't have to praise him for the good stuff he's doing. Or she's a big girl. I shouldn't have to tell her that she's great at whatever it is that she's doing. But the truth is that you need to tell them even more. The longer you're married, the more you need to praise them about the good things. Because here's the thing, is the more you praise them about the good things, when those times come up that you actually do have a concern, their ears are going to be ready to listen because they know you've assumed the best about them. They know that you have their best interest in mind and in heart. And so they're going to listen and be like, wow, if she thinks that that's really an issue, I need to listen, and I probably need to change something about my behavior. But if you're always nagging, and if you're always complaining, and you're always telling them all the things they don't do well, they're just going to shut right down when you have another complaint or another issue. And it might be something that is legit, that really needs to be addressed. So be sure that there's more praising going on than any kind of criticism, because the truth is we are going to have things to complain about. We are going to have things that are issues that need to be addressed. But there are so many more things that your spouse is doing right. You only need to be looking for them.
So you need to be your spouse's biggest encourager and not their biggest critic.
Yep.
The world's already got enough criticism pointed toward us. Your home should be a place where there's so much encouragement, so much love, so much building each other up in love, as it says to do in the Bible, that in those rare moments where you do have to point those things out, that you've built up so much credibility through your encouragement. Because if your spouse genuinely knows you love them, you're for them, you like them, you're thankful to be married to them, and you believe the best in them, they're going to wholeheartedly want to listen to whatever concern you have. But if all they hear is criticism, then that nagging is all they're going to take it as just nagging, and they're going to shut down, and it's going to create a huge gap in your marriage.
It will. So homework for today, think about 2 things that you're so thankful for when it comes to your spouse, and then take it a step further. Thank God for those 2 things. And then take it even one more step further. Go and thank your spouse for those 2 very specific things. And I'm telling you, if you make that a weekly habit and then maybe even a daily habit, your marriage is going to be so much stronger and so much more enjoyable, and you're really going to put a smile on your spouse's face.
Well, good stuff there from Dave and Ashley Willis. And
Always good stuff from
we're
them.
in our kitchen here with our kitchen couples.
right.
Mike and Diane Clemens and Eric and Kara Main.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, Dave and Ashley always have so much wisdom when they're on the show. And I really like the fact that Ashley was talking about how when we speak positively about our spouse, it elevates their trust in us. And if they catch us speaking negatively, it brings the trust level down. Because, you know, that's really important, that they need to know that even when we're not together, we've got their back. We're going to be lifting them up, elevating them to other people, talking about the good things about them, not kind of nitpicking things and talking down.
Yeah, and they said that nagging shuts down communication, and praising and encouraging, it builds it up. It just opens it up. And so such a contrast there. And they said that you know, that the praising must be a lot more plentiful than the negative. So if I've heard like a 5-to-1 ratio at least. And even when you bring up the negative, you bring it up in a way
In a loving
that's
way.
a loving way. It's not an attacking way. But and as he said, it kind of gives credibility to when you do have a concern you need to share, because they know you have their best interest at heart.
Let's face it. There's always going to be concerns we need to share. I mean, this is real life, you know. The rubber meets the road. You're always going to have things where you need to say, okay, baby, we got to talk. But it's the way you share it, really, that matters.
Absolutely. I think we learned early on that whenever we are in public, because we always are in public, that we need to always build one another up, never speak negative or speak down in front of other people about each other, because what we say matter, and the impression that we leave with someone else, right, that also matters. And God tells us, you know, that it is our duty to build one another up, to make each other feel valued, right? And if we don't value one another, who else is going to value us and pour into us and build us up? So we have to make sure that we do that, you know, constantly to one another. And I'm always telling him, he always thinks it's just so crazy, but I always say it. I always say it's from, I can't think of the name of the movie, but she says to a little girl that she's raising, you is smart, you is kind, and you is important. But I always just try to tell him little things to make sure that he knows that you're the king of this castle. Like we may not say it all the time, but you're valued and we appreciate you.
And to go along with that, there's this little idea that if I say something negative but I'm joking, it's okay. That's not okay, right? And so we really want to understand that it's positive or nothing, right? So let's speak positively about, and if we can't speak positive, be quiet. Right? Yes. Just that simple, right? And so it is one of those things to really work on focusing on practicing, making sure that I always speak well. And why wouldn't we speak special things and say things that bring life to a person who's chosen to live their life with us?
As a sports guy who's not only played but been a coach and now general manager, even these big football players, you know, these he-men, they need those words of encouragement when they're on the field. How much more does this team member need it as well, right?
Wow, and you say that right, and I mean, and that big guys break down from a little bit of negativity, and they get so upset, and you know, words matter.
Yeah, they do. And I love how Dave and Ashley gave us practical steps. Maybe people are finding themselves in a season where their marriage isn't where it should be, and it's really tough to be positive to one another. Maybe they feel emotionally drained or used or just not in a great place. I think if they just start with 2 a week or a day of just positive affirmations to your marriage, to your spouse, I think you'll begin to see the atmosphere shift. And so
something that we're called to do, and or even challenged to do in the book of Romans. Paul's writing to the church in Rome, and he says outdo each other in honor. So we're called to be competitive in the way that we outdo one another in honor. And so if I can bring that principle that Paul wrote to the church in Rome into my marriage, I'm going to be competitive with you, but in the way that I honor you. I want to honor you more than you honor me. And vice versa. Be competitive with each other and just say, I'm going to honor you better than you honor me. Because keep yourself humble, but say I am better because I honor you. It's a call to be competitive. Come on, outdo one another in honor. And so I think that's a pretty good principle to bring into our marriage.
That's what I wanted to say. Well done.
Drop the mic. That's it.
And it's been said that people will rise to the level of honor that their spouse gives them.
They will.
They want to be that man. I want to be that man. And she's calling that out in me. Wow. Okay, I need to be that guy because I don't see myself as good as she sees me. You know.
Yeah. And the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so if you're having trouble speaking positively about your spouse, just look into your heart and say, okay, what do I love about him? Like, pick one thing. You know, he provides for the family. He goes to work. Or he's always there for me if I need someone to talk to. Whatever it is, find one thing. Start encouraging him in that. And before you know it, other things will come to mind because he'll, like Ron said, he'll start to rise to that level and say, I love what she sees in me. I want to be that person. And then more things will come out, and it'll become just like Eric said, it'll become like a competition. It'll be a habit where your household is filled with that, and your kids will see that too. They'll see the atmosphere rise, and it's like, okay, I like the positivity that's happening here.
Good stuff. All right, what a positive conversation. All right, more to come. Stay with us.
We've been married 38 years, and we have never really argued a lot. We're not arguers, really, but if we have some tense moments between us, usually it has been about parenting styles.
Disciplining the kids.
Disciplining the kids because, you know, I've said it before, my wonderful husband comes from a home full of grace and mercy. And I come from a home that is the letter of the law.
Military.
Exactly. My dad. Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
Hey, Morgan, we have a question that's come in from parents, and they just feel like, man, the way you parent and the way I parent is night and day. How can they get on the same page?
Yeah, this is so common. So I have 4 things I'm going to go over. And the first one is pay attention to timing. I think this applies to most sort of relationship advice when it comes to giving your partner feedback, but don't give advice in the moment. This is a great way to stir up defensiveness, to not have the advice very well received. And it can be helpful to even imagine there's usually one partner who kind of gives the feedback more than the other. And it can be helpful to imagine what it would be like to be on the receiving end, to be the partner who has kind of like this these eyes over them watching and critiquing their parenting. So watch your timing, talk when things are going relatively well and out of the moment.
So make sure you're not critiquing your spouse in front of the kids when you're trying to do some disciplining thing. That makes great sense. Number 2 is what?
it's listen to learn and not to teach. Ideally, you want to find a blend of both partners' perspectives and styles. I think that a lot of times each partner kind of comes to it with different values around what they want to instill in their children. And sometimes these look like fears, actually. Like, I don't want a spoiled child, or I don't want a child with a poor work ethic, or I want a child with who has emotional intelligence. And sometimes these things create some conflict in the parenting approaches. So sit down, talk about it. What are the values we want to get on the same page about, and how we raise our children together?
Yeah, because sometimes it's the technique that's different, not necessarily the values, because we both want this. We're just going at it from different. Okay. And number 3 is?
Number 3 is share resources if you guys are willing. Share a podcast, share a book, share one of these videos. Do something that can kind of add a bit more information to the conversation.
I love that, because it's something that seems so obvious, but we don't always do that as parents. And Loveology is actually designed beautifully for that, because you watch a little video and you think, oh man, this is exactly what we were talking about a couple nights ago. And you can just forward it to your spouse and say, let's talk about this later tonight. So that's a great thing. All right. And then finally, number 4.
The 4th is develop a plan. Try to talk together and decide, what do you want to be on the same page about. I say it's best to be on the same page about big things, and then the other things kind of give a little bit of room for flexibility. I know I feel like there's triggers that certain parents have, like maybe a dad roughhousing before bedtime with the kids and the mom getting a little bit annoyed. There's benefit to these things. There's research that says so. So get on the same page with the big things, and then allow a little bit of space and flexibility for some personal style and approaches. So develop a plan for how you want to handle those big things, and then develop a plan for when you want to give each other feedback moving forward about changes you want to make and how you're approaching situations.
Yeah, so you're really going into this, as we might say, not flying blind, right? That we have a common direction that we're headed to. 4 very practical things that we can do to get on the same page as parents. Morgan, thanks, as always. Well, we are here in the kitchen with our kitchen couples, Mike and Diane, and Dan and Danielle. And every once in a while, we delve into the kind of the parenting topic here. Usually it's just about this relationship here. But I guess in a sense, this has to do with this relationship, because we want to get on the same page with our parenting styles, and you know, give a little grace back and forth too.
I mean, I don't know. We, over the years, we've been married 38 years, and we have never really argued a lot. We're not arguers, really. But if we have some tense moments between us, usually it has been about parenting styles.
Disciplining the kids.
Disciplining the kids, because, you know, I've said it before, my wonderful husband comes from a home full of grace and mercy. And I come from a home that is the letter of the law.
Military.
Exactly. My dad was in the Army, and there were rules, and you followed those rules, and you got demerits if you didn't. And it was very structured and very organized. And so, being a stay-at-home mom, as I was for many years, I was all about, okay, let's set these rules, and if you break the rules, then we've got, in love, of course. We always want to, you know, temper it in love and affection and all that, but still, you know. Whereas Mr. Grace and Mercy, not so much.
Well, you know, my parents, when we were raised, you know, we did get disciplined for sure. You know, Dad knew how to use the Board of Education to the seat of learning, as they say.
Back in the day when you actually spanked your children. But that turned out pretty good, I think so.
But, you know, there was always just that we knew it was done in love. We knew there was a lot of grace, and, you know, to get to that point of discipline. So when we're raising our kids, it was a bit of a struggle. And so we try to bite our tongues when we're in front of the kids, for sure.
Yeah, we never discussed things in front of the kids.
But we've got some stories.
Yeah, we're similar to you guys. Like, this is grace and mercy for sure, and rule. Right? And I was the disciplinarian.
Yes, sister.
What I say, go. And because that's what I saw in my home, right? My mom was the disciplinarian, and, you know, she put down the rules, and we didn't have much say. It's like, do as I say. And that's it, right? Period. Nothing else, right? And so I took some of that, and so we kind of, you know, I'm the one that's always, And he's like, calm down. Let's talk about it with them and let's work something out. I'm like, work something out? They don't get a choice in this, right? So we really, it's something that to this day, and our children are adults now, that we still kind of struggle with, because I still, as adults, I want to. And he's like, they're grown. I'm like, I know, but, right? So you have to, it's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Yeah. I would put it a different way than struggle. I think that we work towards, right, real conclusions. I saw a quote some time ago, and it was I think 10 or 11 things that they talked about, but one of them was help each other be right, not wrong, right? And I really believe that that's what we try to do, right? Is to kind of understand each other's, differing styles. And my mom had to be pretty regimented, but she says I made it easier on her because I followed the rules, right? So I come from that same or a similar background, right? Maybe not as rigid, but I want our kids to be able to make those decisions. I don't want to make them all for them, right? We want to be able to teach them to make the right decisions and to come up with the right answers. And so she is the star in our house, right? There's no question about it, and the kids respect her infinitely for that. And I understand my role. I'm a role player. I come off the bench, right? So.
It was interesting to me. All four of you were talking about you referenced your family of origin, right? How we come from our family of origin and the way it was done, and that's our frame of reference, and that's normal to us. But then we come into a marriage with someone whose normal is completely different. I remember we talked about that kind of subject way back at the very beginning of A Better Us, how our family of origins were very different. But it's about finding that kind of happy medium between you, because there's strengths in both, and you want to find that balance, right? Because the Bible talks about spare the rod and you'll spoil the child. So just discipline, whatever that looks like in your family. If you don't do that, you're going to spoil your child, and that's to your dishonor.
But it can be done in different ways.
And it also says don't exasperate your children, which is kind of what you're talking about. So we want to find that balance, and finding that balance between us. I don't think we were totally different in our approaches necessarily, but
yeah, I mean, we have different personalities and ways of going about things, for sure, and we balance each other out.
Absolutely.
And I feel like each of us, that's what you've said, is you balance each other out.
Yeah, that works all the time.
But we're all parents, and no matter what our style is, parenting is just hard. It's hard. Period. There's no parenting hack. You just have to go through it, and it's hard. And I think often, if parenting had a GPS, mine would just continually say recalculate. Because our kids, just when I think I've got something mastered, then they grow up and are in a different
throw
stage.
something else at you.
And I feel like I'm drowning again as a mom. And so that's when we have to rely on each other, rely on the Lord. She talked about relying on resources. I am not above
She's
help.
the resource girl. She's the one who's
Give me all the books.
Go and find the book.
Yes.
And bring it in, and that's been helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never helpful when someone shoves a book in front of your face and says, "Read this," which has happened before. I've heard of spouses doing this. I taped A Better Us for you, and I want you to watch this. I make my husband watch this.
Sit down
watch
and watch
this, honey.
this segment. Yeah.
A little passive aggressive.
Yeah.
But
I feel like, we're never going to agree on all the little nitty-gritties of parenting. So we have to really be careful to or be intentional to major on the majors, find out what are our values, what are we really is important to us to instill in our kids, and then minor on the minors. And I'm speaking to myself here, just minor on the minors, Danielle.
Yeah. Well, and what she said is that you both want the same things ultimately. You want to have good kids. You want to have responsible citizens of the world and all that. And we have different approaches because that's what we've known. But finding that happy medium that you can both agree on and make each other better in.
Yeah. That's it. And I think, were you going to say something?
I was inhaling, but
was
no,
inhaling.
I will submit to you.
Well, all I was going to say was along the theme of unity, that our families are stronger when our leaders are unified.
Yes.
And the parents are the leaders of the family. And so if you want a strong family, be unified as a team here. And like you said, Dan, major on the majors, Danielle, but let the minors kind of slide.
Don't
It's
let
not
those
that
kids
important.
divide and conquer.
That's right.
Oh, what one says, the other says.
Yes.
So you're
I think
unified.
Dr. Kevin Lehman says, we've seen the enemy and they are small.
Small but mighty.
Okay, well, what I inhaled about, I'm just going to keep inside then, because I don't think we have time for a story that it might take a couple minutes.
He
but
takes your breath away.
He
There you
does.
go.
Took his breath away.
Well, this has been great. Okay, so remember those tips about parenting. Get on the same page. Don't do it in front of the kids. Talk things through, and pray for God's help.
Be a unified team.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, stay with us. More to come.
Missed an episode of A Better Us? No problem. Visit abetterus.tv and click Watch, where you can enjoy past episodes and even share them with your friends. Each episode is packed with practical advice to help you and your relationship become a better us. While you're there, click subscribe to receive your free weekly Marriage Moment email. Also like us on Facebook to receive program previews, news about upcoming events, and inspirational quotes. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
Today's show has covered a lot, from navigating our different parenting styles to highlighting how important it is to think positive thoughts and speak positive words toward our spouse.
Staying positive can be pretty challenging on the days when the busyness of life has you frazzled and you get on each other's nerves.
It happens.
But putting in the effort to show kindness and appreciation to your spouse, even for the little things they do, goes a long way toward keeping your relationship healthy.
So how about getting into the habit of praising your spouse? You'll find that it's not only good for them, but it's good for you too, because you are verbally reminding yourself of what a gift they are in your life.
Yeah. And even if you think it's more than they deserve, speak out those positive words anyway. You'll likely find that your spouse will want to rise to that level of honor that you're showing them.
Marriage is work, but it's definitely worth the work. And it's great to know that you don't have to do it all on your own strength. When you have a relationship with Jesus, He makes all the difference.
If you'd like to talk with someone about this and receive prayer, please give our prayer line a call. The number is on the screen, and it's there for you 24/7. And also check out the resources available on our website at abetterus.tv.
Thanks again for stopping by. And remember, don't give up. With God, there is always hope to become a better us.
Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
And you can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.